Tonight, draining the reserve.
Drawdowns on the reserve so far have played a big role in bringing down oil prices.
The president taps into the nation's strategic petroleum reserve in an effort to tamp down rising gas prices. Inflation still at an all-time high.
Plus, the former vice president hits the midterm circuit.
I've got a newsflash for Joe Biden.
Less than 3 weeks before the November elections.
And a red wave in the Rio Grande.
It really is about good versus evil.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. A presidential push to lower gas prices ahead of the midterms. Welcome to Faith Nation in Washington. I'm Caitlin Burke.
Good evening. I'm John Jessup. Well, with gas prices on the rise again, President Biden announced today he's releasing 15 million additional barrels from the strategic oil reserves. The move is part of a plan to release a total of 180 million barrels by December.
With 3 weeks to go before the midterms, some say the president's decision is politically motivated, a charge the White House refutes. For more on this, we're joined by our CBN News White House correspondent, Abigail Robertson. Abigail?
That's right, Caitlin. Well, President Biden once again blamed the rising oil and gas prices on Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. And Biden said that those who believe he's only doing this to give Democrats a boost at the polls in a few weeks haven't been paying attention.
It's not politically motivated at all. It's motivated to make sure that I continue to push on what I've been pushing on. And that is making sure there's enough oil that's being pumped by the companies so that we have the ability to be able to produce enough gas that we need here at home, oil we need here at home, and at the same time, keep moving in the direction of providing for alternative energy.
Now, the strategic oil reserve will be just over half full, containing about 400 million barrels of oil. But that is its lowest level since 1984. And as president, Biden has released about 40% of the stockpile, a move Republicans say is dangerous and leaves America vulnerable in the event of an emergency. But President Biden announced today plans to refill it.
Today, I'm announcing a plan to refill the strategic petroleum oil reserve in the years ahead at a profit for taxpayers. The United States government is going to purchase oil to refill the strategic petroleum reserve when prices fall to $70 a barrel. That means oil companies can invest to ramp up production now.
Now, Republicans have also been critical of Biden for not asking U.S. oil producers to ramp up production to meet the demand. But Biden says that an increase in U.S. oil production needs to be paired with efforts to transition towards clean energy. Caitlin, John.
All right, Abigail Robertson reporting from the White House. Thank you so much, Abigail. Well, here with us now is Phil Kirpin. He is the president of American Commitment. Phil, thank you for being with us. You just heard Abigail reporting 15 million barrels, a total of 180 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve by the end of the year. Do you think this is actually going to have an impact on gas prices?
Not a big impact. It's a very small impact in the context of global supply and in the context of how much oil we use every day. It's much less significant than, for instance, the difference we would have if we still had a pro-drilling posture across all of the federal government like we did in the Trump administration. A recent study from the Committee to Unleash Prosperity actually found that if we continued Trump policies, we'd be producing 2 to 3 million more barrels every single day in this country. So when you talk about selling another 15 million from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, you know, we could be doing that much more every single week if we had the policy incentives right.
Phil, the president denies the latest release from the Strategic Reserve is politically motivated, but the move preempts an anticipated increase in domestic oil production. The Permian Basin in Texas set to reach record high levels next month, just after the election. Why not just wait for that oil?
The timing is extremely political. Remember, also, this is an administration that basically begged Saudi Arabia to delay their production cuts by 1 month, not to cancel them, but to delay them by 1 month to get through the election. So everything they're doing right now on oil and on energy and on gas prices in particular is about the election. If you look at the chart for the last year of the president's approval rating next to the price of gas at the pump, they're the same chart. And they know that. Everyone in the White House sees that. And so, of course, they're desperate to do anything they can to get the market to move downward in the short term and to somehow get through this election, which is going to be a very bad one, it looks like, for Democrats. But to your point, you know, it really messes up the incentives in the private sector to have the government constantly stepping in with various policy interventions. And of course, even in these announcements today, what else did the president say? He said, we're going to get off oil and gas. We're going to transition to renewables. Well, you can't put billions of dollars into developing new production, into developing new refineries and so forth, if you know that there's a policy that wants to eliminate your business in the medium term. And I think, you know, that contradiction is why these policies are very ineffective as an economic matter. They're hoping that they'll work as a political matter. But, you know, the market perception is generally market participants are pretty smart. And I don't think this is necessarily going to have the effect that they're hoping for in terms of a big reduction ahead of the election.
Phil, recently we've seen financial firms readjust their projections when it comes to recession. Economists at Bloomberg are forecasting a 100% chance of a U.S. recession within the year. Is there any way that you can envision of heading that off?
Well, of course, it all depends on what the definition of recession is, but because by the definition that most of us have been used to historically, we already are in a recession. And the question is whether it'll be a double dip, if we might get a good quarter or two, but then it goes back into negative GDP growth. And we've got an economy where we still have a seemingly very high employment, although a lot of people have left the labor force over the last couple of years. But we've got all of these other economic fundamentals that are very, very challenged, and in particular, the inflationary environment like we haven't seen for 40 years. And the Fed is desperate to limit that inflation, but that means they want to strangle the economy of capital that it needs by jacking up interest rates. And, you know, it's very hard to see how they could have a deft enough touch to do that without a pretty steep recession. It would take a level of precision that they're not known for having. So I think it's unlikely that it can be avoided. The question is, you know, how deep and how long it'll be. And a lot of that, I think, depends on policy. If we continue to have an anti-growth, high tax, big government spending, anti-energy posture out of Washington, it could be a very long, very painful recession. If we have the kind of election where Republicans win big and Biden reacts the way, say, Clinton did in '94, moves to the center, says we're going to cut spending, we're going to cut taxes, then maybe we could, you know, go back into a boom. But if we keep doing the same things, we're going to keep getting the same results.
All right, Phil Kirpin with American Commitment. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Phil.
My pleasure.
The countdown is on to the midterms. With just 20 days to go, inflation is soaring, the economy is struggling, and Americans are still divided on the issue of abortion rights. During a speech at the Heritage Foundation today, former Vice President Mike Pence taking aim at President Biden's vow to codify the right to an abortion into law.
Well, I've got a newsflash for Joe Biden. On January 22nd, 2023, we're going to have pro-life majorities in the House and the Senate, and we're going to be taking the case for life to every state in America.
The former VP blasting liberal policies and offering a roadmap for the future of the conservative movement.
That doesn't veer off too far in either direction. Our movement cannot forsake the foundational commitment that we have to security, to limited government, to liberty, and to life. But nor can we allow our movement to be led astray by the siren song of unprincipled populism that's unmoored from our oldest traditions and most cherished values.
Pence also emphasizing the GOP's commitment to security, limited government, traditional moral values, and the sanctity of life. Joining us now is CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody. David, Pence predicts Republicans will take Congress, but some of these close races, like the Georgia Senate race, may go into runoffs. How soon could we know where the balance of power lies in Congress?
Well, look, for all of our sanity, we can only hope it'll be on November 8th, on Tuesday. Having said that, I don't think that's going to be the case, Caitlin. I think we're going to go into the 9th and the 10th. And in Georgia specifically, If you don't get 50% of the vote, then it's going to be a runoff on December 6th, about a month later. And that is potentially what we could see in Georgia between the Senator Raphael Warnock and the Republican candidate there, Herschel Walker. Warnock hovering around that 50% mark, but just not quite there. So we'll see. I think it's going to probably be a few weeks until we find out. But of course, it depends on all the other moving parts. And there are so many different moving parts. But don't worry, I'm coming to CBN election headquarters with Excedrin and with Alka-Seltzer. So and I'll bring some for you and John as well, by the way.
Thanks for being in the sharing mood. David, we just played some excerpts from Vice President Pence's speech there. Pardon me. He also gave a warning against unprincipled populism. I may not be the smartest person around, but it seems like he was directing that against former President Donald Trump. How much of an appetite, David, do you think there is for traditional Reagan-era conservatism versus the populism brought on by former President Trump?
Well, it's a great question. And just to pump up your ego, you're very smart, John. I just want to I'll go on record here on Faith Nation tonight about that. Look, you're right. It was about Trump. It was about that populism. Let's remember, Trump isn't just populism. It's an isolationist type party that the GOP is starting to turn into. It's a non-elitist type party that the GOP is turning into. So you put the whole thing together, and Mike Pence is swimming upstream. This is very, very hard to do. Now, having said that, I think a lot of the principles that Mike Pence is explaining and putting down are 100% right on. The problem is it's also running right on into an iceberg that is the Trump party today. So, look, this is the, I guess, pun intended, the elephant in the room for sure. But this is what needs to be discussed. It's Mike Pence and kind of like the old GOP, grandfather GOP, versus Trump and this whole new GOP, the way it's going. And boy, Ukraine has kind of been the key in all of this. This is where you really see the divide. Kevin McCarthy and Mike Pence even disagreeing on this. Kevin McCarthy basically saying we got to slow down the aid to Ukraine if the Republicans take control of the House. Pence says, no, we got to keep it going. That's a signal that there's something amiss here in the GOP.
David, in about 30 seconds, do you believe President Biden's announcement about withdrawing more oil from the strategic reserve is enough to make a difference for voters driven by the state of the economy?
No, because all of the polling suggests that the train has left the station on this, that people know what's going on. Eggs are more, my meal at Carrabba's is more, the inflation is more. And I don't think people are going around the dinner table saying, hey, honey, did you hear tonight? Joe Biden is dipping into the petroleum reserve. It's not happening. It's wonky. No one cares. That train has left the station. That train is about to derail for the Democrats November 8th.
All right, CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody. David, thanks as always.
Thanks, David.
Russian President Vladimir Putin stirring up more outrage. When we come back, the latest as the war in Ukraine rages on. Well, welcome back. Turning overseas, Russian President Vladimir Putin has declared martial law in the regions he illegally annexed from Ukraine. The order goes into effect Thursday in the 4 occupied regions of eastern and southern Ukraine. The move gives extra powers to the Russian leaders over those regions. Putin claims the crackdown is necessary to ensure Russia's security and protect its people.
In China, what has long been a one-child policy is now a 3-child policy. But a tragic fact remains. Many pregnant women are forced to have abortions, especially if they're carrying a girl.
A Maryland-based international women's rights group is on the ground there, trying to stop the practice one baby at a time. CBN's David Brody spoke with the group's founder about the issue.
The one-child policy became a 2-child policy in 2016 and became a 3-child policy in 2021. And the thing that people don't understand is that all of the brutality of the one-child policy is still legal under the 3-child policy. So the new rule is every married couple is allowed to have 3 children, which makes it still legal for them to forcibly abort unmarried women and also 4th children. And they are still carrying on forced abortions among the Uyghurs and the Tibetans. And then all the rest of the fallout about the gender side, the sex-selective abortion of baby girls, even though they are not enforcing forced abortion in many areas of China right now, the families are still selectively aborting and abandoning baby girls because even under the 3-child policy, there's son preference, and the baby boys, people prefer baby boys. And so if they have 2 daughters first and they're coming up for a 3rd child, some families will just abort baby girls until they finally get a baby boy for that 3rd child. And there's also a lot of poverty in China, especially it's been exacerbated with COVID. So we are the only organization in the world that is on the ground inside of China helping mothers of baby girls keep their daughters.
You sent me some of these. What are we looking at? These are kids over there. Help me out a little bit. Take us through some of this.
Well, the babies that you're looking at are actual babies that have been or are currently in our program. So we have saved about 300 baby girls, and the way we do it is we have field workers that come to the door and say, I understand that you're pregnant with a baby girl, or you just gave birth to a baby girl, and that your mother-in-law is trying to get you to abandon her, like give her away somewhere else. And what we want to say is girls are as good as boys. And we will give you a monthly stipend of $25 a month to empower you to argue back against your husband and your mother-in-law that you should be able to keep your daughter. And these women are very, very grateful. And the $25 a month, that's a lot of money in the Chinese countryside, and it enables them to go back to their husband, go back to their mother-in-law, and say, "Look, I can't abandon this baby girl. Look, she's a lucky girl. She's already bringing money into the family." And so we've empowered about over 300 women to either keep their babies or to be able to feed their babies, because a lot of these women are so stressed that or don't even have enough food. They can't produce breast milk, and they need money to buy powder, to feed their baby girls.
This should not be a left or right issue. I know we use the word abortion, but really, I mean, where is the bully pulpit on this? Where is Biden on this? I mean, where is any administration on this to really kind of go after? Yeah, I'm laughing when I say this. Go after the Chinese. They're not going to do that. They know where their bread is buttered. I mean, the Chinese control us. So why are they going to do it? I mean, there's so much politics involved in this. I'll give you the last word here.
I established Women's Rights Without Frontiers with the hope that left and right people who are pro-abortion, pro-life would come together to oppose forced abortion, because it's not a choice. And I've been very disappointed. Basically, the people who support so-called abortion rights really have not said anything and really have not helped at all with this effort. It's all the pro-life community that has come behind me to try to stop these atrocities in China.
A blue patch of Texas Republicans are hoping to paint red. We head to the Rio Grande for the details next on Faith Nation.
Well, if a trio of Latina candidates in South Texas gets their way, a reliably blue bastion may be set to turn red this November. The 3 women call themselves patriots who love God and country and are proud of it.
CBN's Tara Mergener recently caught up with them at a prayer breakfast in the Rio Grande Valley and has more about why they've been dubbed the triple threat.
The folks here in South Texas have long voted reliably blue. But this election cycle, there are 3 conservative Latina candidates vying to transform the politics and turn the region red.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Maintaining that Christian values are on the line.
It's not about just Republican or Democrat. It really is about good versus evil.
The 3 GOP congressional candidates running to represent the Rio Grande Valley see a red wave barreling toward South Texas.
Many in this community that said, Monica, never ever will there be a Republican elected to Congress in South Texas.
While their mostly Hispanic working-class districts tend to be socially conservative and pro-life,
we want to protect the life of the unborn.
The border region has been a Democrat stronghold for generations. Congresswoman Mayra Flores, who recently won her seat in a special election, Cassie Garcia and Monica de la Cruz call themselves patriots who love God and country and are proud of it.
I felt the Holy Spirit in me tell me, this is your time, Monica.
Republican values are really South Texas values built on faith, family, and the opportunity for hard work here in America.
As new polls show momentum building for the GOP, their straightforward message has gained national attention.
The Democrat Party walked away from the Hispanic community to cater to the far left that is anti-God, anti-family, and that is just not who we are here in South Texas.
They often appear together at events in a show of unity, standing firm against illegal immigration, now at its highest level in history.
Let's improve that process so good people are able to come here but not have to go through the trauma and the abuse. Our Border Patrol agents are focused on the humanitarian crisis and not able to stop the fentanyl.
After winning the June election,
you are now a member of the Alliance.
Flores became the first Latina Republican sent by Texas to Congress. All three candidates are running in districts once thought to be untouchable by Republicans.
I'm a Christian mom, homeschooling mom, and so that is what mostly, the conservative values that they have, yeah, that's what moved me over.
As a growing number blame Democrats for lurching to the left, the party's national hold on Hispanic voters appears to be loosening as well. The percentage is half of what it was a decade ago.
When I'm talking to the moms and the dads that are having a hard time to put gas in their car, put food on their table, and I tell them, don't give up hope. Go vote come this November.
Nationwide, there are at least 32 million Latinos eligible to vote in the midterm elections, making them one of the fastest growing sectors of the American electorate. In South Texas, I'm Tara Mergener, CBN News. Finally tonight, the Boy Scout motto is be prepared, but no amount of preparation could have helped this troop avoid the unexpected.
That's right. A group of Texas Scouts from El Paso finally returned home after being stranded in a New Mexico National Forest for 3 days. 16 Boy Scouts and 9 adults were left trapped at their campsite due to severe weather and floodwaters. The weather made it difficult for state police and the National Guard to fly or land their helicopters. The search and rescue team finally airlifting everyone to safety. The Texas Scouts were uninjured and greeted the rescuers expectantly with lots of hugs and high fives.
They should get some extra badges for that, I feel like.
I would agree with that, 100%. Well, thanks so much for watching.
We'll see you tomorrow.